Hello everybody, Don Bodenbach here, and welcome to our third week in Mastering the 10 Factors of Longevity. If you remember, in week 1 we talked about declining hormones. We also talked about insulin resistance and your stress hormones and how important it is to get control of your hormonal system if you want to live a long time. The second thing we talked about in week number 2 was antioxidants and oxidative damage, how to protect yourself. We also talked about protecting your DNA. This week it's impaired detoxification and impaired protein synthesis. So let's start with impaired detoxification. Listen, detoxification is all about getting rid of the toxic burden and toxic buildup inside of your body. And what that does is it promotes something called cellular renewal, extremely important. Now, how are you going to do this? And more importantly, or equally as important, how do we get all this toxic stuff in our bodies? Well, here's some startling statistics, and I don't want to be negative about this. This is just the reality. The Environmental Protection Agency came out in the year, I think, 2000, and estimated there's about 7 billion pounds of toxic waste that gets dumped into the environment. And in that toxic soup, there's about 80,000 different chemical compounds. We also have prescription drugs and non-prescription drugs that add to the toxic burden. Smoking, drinking, and of course there's our standard American diet, otherwise known as the SAD diet, which contributes a whole lot to the toxic burden. Question is this: your blood, your lymphatic system, your liver, your skin, your lungs, your kidneys, are they capable of handling this toxic load? Your intestinal tract. And if not, what are you going to do about it? And the likelihood is, especially in today's world, you're not going to be able to handle the amount of toxicity that you're breathing in, that you're eating, and that you're drinking in. So the idea is it's going to accumulate, and accumulation is a very, very bad thing to have happen to you. So what you got to do, you got to help yourself out, and you got to start removing or lowering that burden. Now, the goal is to do it simultaneously, because if you try and detoxify one area of the body, then the other areas are going to take a burden if they're not being supported and helped. So usually the detoxification that you're trying to accomplish is not going to go very well. So the idea is blood and lymph, liver, intestinal tract, kidneys, and skin. You want to try to do all that simultaneously. Now, the number of ways you can do that. The easiest way, there's a product that I know of out there called Total Cleanse, and that's by a company called Solaray. That's the easiest way to do it. It's just one product, and it's got all these different herbal remedies in it that helps out. It's not the most effective way to do it, but it certainly is a way that deals with all of those things simultaneously. There are many different types of cleansing products and cleansing systems out there. If you go to the health food store and look around, you'll find one. Just take the one that suits you the best. That's really the best way to handle it and to go about this. And then remember the book that I talked about in week 1 and week 2 called Prolonging Health, Mastering the 10 Factors of Longevity by Dr. James Williams. In the chapter on improving detoxification, there are all kinds of things and resources that you can look at and do. You will not be left without something to do if you take a look at that chapter and in that book. Now, if you're really into it, there's some more advanced things that you can do. A lot of times what's happened is people accumulate heavy metals in their body, in particular things like mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, aluminum, things like that. So there are things called chelating agents. You can do chelation therapy. That's an intravenous thing that gets put into your bloodstream that helps pull these metals out, but it's not very good with mercury. There's one called DMPS, and that is more specific for mercury. Mercury is a very hard thing to get out of your body, but you can get an injection of DMPS, and that will help pull it out, and they can measure that in your urine to see how much of that is coming out of your body. You can also do something called a supervised fast. Fasting today is not highly recommended to be doing that on your own, and most of the doctors that have been involved with fasting or understand fasting say don't do it on your own these days. There are too many toxic things in our environment, in our liver. When it starts unloading a lot of the toxicity, man, it really puts people in danger, and it's a big problem. The other thing you can do are things like colonics and the usual more advanced things that you probably may already know about. Okay, so that's it for impaired detoxification. Let's talk about impaired protein synthesis. Now, it doesn't sound like a very exciting topic, but guess what? Protein is obviously the building blocks and the repair for your body. Protein equals the life-sustaining processes in your body, right? So proteins are incredibly important, and what you want is those proteins to be in the best state as they possibly can be in. But what's happening in today's world is we've got a process that's occurring. It's a three-step process, and that process is degrading and denaturing and damaging these proteins. And so as you get older and as this process continues, it spirals downward and gets worse, and now you cannot make the very substantive, fundamental building blocks in your body, and that causes some pretty significant deterioration, as you might imagine. So what happens? First thing that happens is something called protein glycation. Now, that's a big fancy word meaning you have too much sugar in your blood, it's interacting with the proteins, and it's causing something very similar to what is known as caramelization, right? The browning effect. Caramelization, that's right. Inside of your body, this process is going on because there's far too much sugar in people's bloodstreams these days, and it's interacting with your proteins. Then it moves to a second stage, and that second stage is when these proteins start to oxidize. They call that cross-linking. Cross-linking is not a good thing to have happen in your body. If you can look at like a windshield wiper, the reason why you change it is because the windshield wiper gets old, it gets stiff, and it starts to crack, right? Cross-linking. That's happening in your body. It's happening externally to your skin, to your hair, to your nails. Ladies, are you listening? And it's also happening internally to all your internal organs, your cardiovascular system. Everything inside and outside is subject to this cross-linking. Then the third thing happens, and those are called A.G.Es. A.G.E is the acronym, and that stands for Advanced Glycated End Products. That's when these glycated proteins cross-link so much that they turn into these nasty things called advanced glycated end products. And the hallmark of these kind of things is that's why old people get stiff, and these things contribute to cardiovascular disease, to kidney problems, to Alzheimer's disease, to eye disorders, to diabetes. Very, very bad thing to have these advanced glycated end products accumulate. Part of the reason why diabetics have so many problems is because they accumulate in them much faster than the normal population. Because why? Too much sugar in their blood, right? So, internal and external abuse is the hallmark of these advanced glycated end products, and it's a progressive deterioration of your proteins, and these damaged proteins are an extraordinary problem in our modern world today, and there's something extremely urgent that we get on top of this, start telling people about this, and get it cleaned up, because there's a lot that you can do about it. All right, what can you do? Number one, you gotta stop eating all of this refined sugar, refined fructose, refined carbohydrates. We have just turned into a nation that's just got this massive sweet tooth, and nobody's telling you how damaging and destructive this excess amount of sugar that we're eating is, and it's leading to these problems that nobody is really talking about, but they are the prime reasons why people are aging and dying well before their time. So if there's one thing that I could tell you that I think is the most destructive aspect, and it runs a common thread to every one of these things that we're going to be talking about, it's overconsumption of sugar. Next thing, include in your daily regime a quality whey protein. The amino acid structures and things that are going on in whey protein, really good, and it will help replenish the reserves in your body, because if you've been eating a lot of sugar, you've probably got a problem with a lot of these proteins that have been denatured like this, and you want to put back really good ones. The third thing is, interestingly enough, there is a nutrient that helps to undo this damage. That nutrient is called carnosine. C-A-R-N-O-S-I-N-E. Take it. Add it to your regime. It's a valuable, valuable nutrient, and it will definitely help to reverse a lot of this damage. Okay? There you have it. We've done 6 now out of 10. We've got 2 more weeks to go, and next week what we're going to talk about is reducing inflammation, and we're going to talk about improving your cardiovascular function and help with something called sticky blood. So until next week, live long and prosper.